Okay, so in this screencast, I'm going to talk about environmental value systems. And this these value systems are going to be really important because they're going to tie into pretty much every major concept and environmental issue that we tackle for the rest of the course. Now, what an environmental value system is, it's the worldview or set of paradigms. So it's like how people see the world and how they approach the world regarding environmental issues. So what are some central tenets that someone believes about the environment and the world? And then how can they use those to implement solutions? Okay. So your environmental worldview is going to be shaped by a series of inputs and outputs, right? So we've got media, religion, education, background, science, politics, economics. All these things about you are going to shape how you view the environment and the world. And all of those things that shape it, that's going to be kind of your core tenets of your value system. And then that's going to allow you to make decisions. It's going to influence the perspectives that you have and the mindset you have about events that are happening and the actions that you ultimately take. There are three broad categories of environmental value systems. And these are the ecocentric, anthropocentric, and technocentric. And a little bit of a summary, like ecocentric, I'm sure you can imagine, nature-centered. We're not going to disturb nature. Anthropocentric is more focused on humans and how they can influence the environment. And technocentric is how do we use technology to solve our problems. For each one of these environmental value systems, you're going to have to be able to summarize their core values and then how they would approach, what are their approaches to management? So what does that mean to solve an environmental issue? So you're going to take their core values, you need to talk about their core values and say, because they believe this is how they would solve the problem of global warming, or this is how they would solve the problem of acid rain or, sustainable food production. So the very first one, ecocentrism, the core values here is that they believe in nature, that it has an intrinsic value. Okay, so that means nature has a value just because it exists. It believes all species have an inherent right to live. So because something is alive, it has its right to live. It has bio rights. Whether that is extreme would be everything from mosquitoes to polar bears to humans have the right to live on the planet. Because there's a lot of interconnected things that work within that realm. And they also believe that societies need to be self-sufficient and sustainable within smaller societies. They don't trust really big, giant projects or government or technology to solve problems. Because they believe in these core values, the way that they tend to approach management of the environment is they want to work alongside the earth and not against it. They're going to encourage people to not consume things. You don't want to buy a whole bunch of new clothes or new, products, because that is just going to be adding to more waste. So you want a less materialistic approach to life. They emphasize educating the public, having self-restraint. Don't go out and buy that new phone. And then you're taking personal responsibility. It's your job to recycle and use less. Okay, so they really believe then in having community action. So it's the actions of individuals are going to make a big difference. And so again, big scale technological solutions and governmental things, although they're fine and they're not going to snub their nose at them, they're not going to have faith that that's going to solve the problems, that it's individual responsibility to do so. Whereas with anthropocentrism, they believe that humans have the ability to sustainably manage the Earth's resources. Okay, so humans that is our job. We can manage those resources on Earth, but that nature is there to benefit mankind. So the way they approach their management is that they think government has a strong role in environmental issues. So they think we can tax, we can regulate, we can legislate, so we can create laws and boundaries for the public as government can do that to be able to save the environment. So whether it's like the Kyoto Protocol or creating treaties where we're going to use less, creating carbon taxes, or maybe tax breaks on electric vehicles. Those are all kind of anthropocentric views. And they do like to look at consensus, like this is something because for a democratic society that they believe in working on that together. Technocentrism, the last one. Now, this one focuses, we need economic growth so we can keep inventing. Humans are the most important species. It really encourages science and research. And that actually, we don't have to restrain our consumption and our use. It's quite optimistic that we could just kind of keep on keeping on. But because of that, but it's important that we use technology to provide solutions. So if we're running out of a resource that we think is important, we might maybe invent a new technology that can use a different resource. So substitute that resource for another. Or we can invent ways to reduce our consumption without having to hinder our comfort, our lifestyle, and our advancement in society. So technological developments could be as simple as a compact fluorescent light bulb, or it could be, new solar revolutions, different types of cars. But it's saying we don't have to drive less, we just need to drive a different kind of car. So it's not taking that kind of restraint. Now, all three of these value systems can live inside one single individual, and all of the approaches working together can help solve major world problems. So from here on out, you're going to be looking at different problems, and you need to be able to talk about how would the different world, environmental value systems approach those problems. And you'll even be asked to justify which do you think would be the most pragmatic approach, what would be the best way to solve the problem. And your answer might be all three, or it might be more heavily weighted on one or the other, depending on what your worldview is and how well you can justify.